welcome. My name is Ellie Kerr. Welcome to the Crispy Ear podcast in association with Merseyside Women of the Year. And today I have joining me Marion Riley, Senior Director of Wealth Management from Rathbones. Marion, welcome.
Hi Ellie, welcome. Oh, sorry. Oh my God.
You're very welcome, Marion. You're very welcome to be here.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
It's fabulous to have you here because I am like a giddy kipper. Rathbones coming in as headline sponsor. I cannot thank you enough. It's been such a pleasure to have that really well-known brand and that respected business within the city. So I just wanted to talk to you today a bit about that, but also a bit about you, Marion. So let's talk about, where did you first start? Because you didn't grow up in Rathbones, did you?
No, I didn't. So, if I go back, I've been in the investment industry or financial industry for the last 25 years, which is hard to believe. It feels like a blink of an eye and 25 years have passed. But I've worked around the industry in various different organisations. I started out in a stockbrokers in Manchester. That was my first role as a graduate from university. And, a couple of redundancies later because it was in the dot-com bubble had burst and never thought I'd be getting the opportunities again. There was a Liverpool stockbroker, Blankstone Singleton, that I was able to secure a role in at that stage. I started out really all on the investments and looking at whether you should buy or sell investments, but very much felt like I was scratching the surface because they were all private client businesses, and I wanted to get stuck into the detail of those investments from a more of an institutional side, so the investment bank side. Got the opportunity to move across to an investment bank, which I thought was going to be, where my career would be. But, being short, scouse, female and blonde, it was quite a challenge in such a male-dominated environment. And, I was in London quite frequently, and at the time, didn't have as thick a skin as I do now. And so it wasn't really, the institutional world at that time wasn't really for me. People say to me, is it like Wolf of Wall Street? And there were some moments like occasionally back in the day, but it obviously wasn't as bad as those films make out, but it really was a big boys club. But the opportunity then came for me to move back into private client and work for a company called Rensburg Shepherds, which has now migrated into it was Investec, and then Investec and Rathbones came together 2 years ago. So a bit of a walk around of the history of Investec stroke Rathbones, but both businesses were got their roots dating back to the 1800s. Both were formed in Liverpool, which is brilliant. And, it's great to be, in a city that's got such a vibrant financial, district and, financial services side. So been a bit of a whistle stop.
Gosh, and that is a very, very male-dominated. I think it's changed a little bit now.
We've come a long way. We've come a long way.
Yeah, but there's still more to do, isn't there?
Oh, there's always more to look at from all types of diversity, to be honest. But we have come a long way since I first started out 25 years ago, and I feel proud that the industry has recognised that there are so many challenges that people face generally financially, and it's having those different people to be able to talk to, and from different walks of life to be able to look at things in a different perspective. And I think that's the thing, it's not one perspective is right, and I think male and female do look at things in slightly different ways. So it's really good that we've got to the point where we are seeing a lot more females coming through the sort of the financial services. Not enough, not as many as we'd like, but we are seeing people seeing it as a career that they can actually achieve. I'm married. I've got a young daughter who's 12, going on about 30. Started high school in September. So people say you can't have a career and you can't have a family at the same time in the industry, and that's not true. You can. It's hard work. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's
a big balancing act, though.
It is a balancing act. It is. Yeah, it is a balancing act. And I think earlier on in my career, I made choices which I'd changed today. When I had my daughter, she was, very much wanted, and I only ended up taking 6 months off because I felt I wouldn't be able to leave. I worked hard to get clients, and I felt that, I'd lose those clients if I was away for longer than 6 months. realistically now, with all the relationships I've got with clients, you know, I should have took a bit longer because it wouldn't have made any difference to them. But actually at the time, you know, I was inexperienced and there was no senior females for me to, you know, in our particular business at the time where, you know, who I could go and speak to and talk about that. But, you know, rights for, you know, parents, both, you know, mums and dads have come a long way, which is great, you know, so that people can spend that quality time.
I think it is sort of like one of those when you don't know what the blueprint is, when because basically, you know, you were one of the women that were forging that blueprint, and when there isn't something or somebody before you has actually done, oh well, they did this, you don't really know what's acceptable or what you'd. I don't want to get away with, but what would be, you know, what you could do, because you've got nobody there to. No. It's already done it.
No, exactly, and you know, you feel it's going to hold you back, and you know, maybe you won't get that promotion, and ultimately, you know, the year I returned and I've been off for 6 months, I didn't get the promotion, and I, you know, had a conversation where they said I lacked gravitas, and that really stung at the time. But actually, it's those, I suppose it's those challenges and those situations that make you the person that you are, and actually, I look back on that now, and that was a turning point for me, because I thought, no, that's, you know, that's not how I see myself, and that actually helped, as very difficult as it was at the time, you know, putting it, you know, dropping off me 6-month-old baby and then told I lack gravitas, so was quite challenging. But that was the real turning point, and it made me focus so much more on what can we do in an industry and how can we move forwards, because, you know, surely, you know, there's space for everybody,
especially from my perspective, and how supportive you've been over the years, not just, you know, that you've come in as headline sponsor, but of Merseyside Women of the Year of WATI, because you've always been there as a you know, a champion from sort of a women's perspective, because I know you've taken tables in the past, and then the last couple of years you've come in as a category sponsor for Entrepreneur, but it was you driving that, and sort of like, you know, so what would be the thing that would make people want to sponsor WATI? So obviously headline is a big jump.
It is, but one I've been desperate to
I know you have, which is amazing to have.
So it feels amazing that we've actually got to this point where we are now. Rathbones is headline sponsor. I think for me, the awards themselves really, they're a different category of awards. I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I've felt so much empowerment in the room, and from, you know, all walks of life and all of the challenges that we face, you know, and to see that group of people coming together and so many people celebrating that, it was just amazing. You know, nobody's buying their way in, nobody's, you know, backhanding somebody to get a particular award. They're actually there really, you know, because of on pure merit, and a lot of them are so unsung heroes, which, you know, I mean, I think the first time I attended, it just really touched a heartstring, and so from that point onwards, you know, I always wanted to be involved somehow. So, you know, I went as a guest to start with, and then I, you know, take a table, take, you know, clients with me, take, you know, colleagues, friends. You know, it's become one of those occasions where, you know, people are asking me, you know, are you taking a table this year? And that's always lovely to have, because, you know, you get invited to many different things, and but people, you know, really, I think it touched people in a different way, the stories, and it isn't all, you know, it isn't all hearts and flowers, is it? You know, in terms of there's a lot of really challenging topics, and that have been, you know, voiced quite, you know, quite a lot over the years, and I actually think that's actually really quite it gives you a different perspective. And so for me, those, you know, the awards themselves, which is not just a day, which, you know, people see it as the awards, but actually it's a whole year. And
it is a whole year.
And actually it's ongoing. It's, you know, as you've said before, and Moira's said before, it's a movement, and it is a movement. And I think once you're on that sort of train, you know, there's no getting off, basically. I'm on it.
Moira basically said that.
Did she say the same?
Yeah, she said it was just like, you know, you get on and you just think, oh yeah, and then the next minute, you can't get off. It's just like, oh no,
and you just want to do more and more. So, you know, it was amazing to be category sponsor for the Entrepreneur Awards, and that was great to be able to get to, you know, to you know, see what fabulous females we've got in the city that have got their own businesses and they're driving things forward. I mean, our winner last year, Katie Bowater, she's just amazing.
She's phenomenal.
She is. I mean,
Such
Amanda Unsworth was fabulous the year before as well. But Katie, she's only young, and what she's achieved, she's one to watch. She's going to be taking over the world because she's really got that drive behind her. So to have been able to be involved in that, from that perspective, was brilliant. But then when the opportunity came up for headline sponsor, I was like a dog with a bone in the office. And our marketing team are fabulous and have really been supportive. But I think they recognise that we probably haven't been, in the marketplace, if you like, for supporting females as much as we possibly should. A lot of the marketing is previously when I was at Investec and Rathbones has been sports related, or there's been arts, or with our big sponsorship of the Philharmonic, which has all been fantastic. But actually, there's a real, sort of gap to be able to celebrate, how successful and wonderful, some of the, a lot of the females that we've got in the region. So I think that played into the ability for us to be able to participate in that, and being such a big organisation in the city, and now the businesses have come together. We're huge, really, employers, and I think it's important that we're seen as an employer that does support and encourage females from all different walks of life, and is there as a support. Obviously it's great to offer financial advice and investments to people, and it's not always going to be relevant to everybody, but it's that piece of being able to raise those profiles of those finalists in particular, and raise the profile of the causes that a lot of them have delved.
Yeah, I think for me, your involvement, because you've been to what, 30?
I'm sure it's about 30. I think 13.
Well,
I'm sure I missed
15
one.
Years.
Yeah, I've definitely missed one. So I think it's at least 13 I've been to.
Marion,
I know.
I think that's nearly as many as me. I think you're the nearest person to me, because I think in 23 years since 2003.
Remember the milk tray man?
Oh,
remember our milk tray man?
Oh yeah, and we got told off. Yeah, because we melted the internet. Yes, in 2003, I've only missed 2. So you're not far behind me.
And I'm hoping to not miss any.
But I think sort of your support and your willing to step in and help other women, it's phenomenal. Because I've watched you, and you're just there. You want to help, and you don't want to sort of like just sit on the sidelines. You're one of those women, because I would say about the ladder, and you send the ladder down, but you're one of those that hasn't broken the bottom rung. You've made sure that, like, you're there with your hand to help other women up. And I think that for me is, when people ask me about, sponsors and stuff of Watty, I think we attract now the kind of people and sponsors that have our values at heart. Because previously we've had offers and stuff like that, and they've gone, oh, do you know what, you're not aligned with us, but yourself and what you bring to the party, I'd say definitely are.
Oh, thanks, Ellie. It's really important to me that you do support fellow colleagues, fellow females and males as well, because at the end of the day we need both. But I think for me, not having people help me along the way at times, or perhaps hindered at times, has been something that's shaped the person that I am. And if I can help anybody, I will do, much to the detriment sometimes of my own time. I end up in all kinds of situations, but I'm more than happy to, because I think I get so much enjoyment from seeing how people can progress and seeing how they can develop, and it's a joy to watch. And if I've helped in a small part, then it's from a personal perspective, it's a selfish perspective. It's a good thing to see that.
But to have that advocacy is rare, because sometimes we all over the years, and I've probably done too many years, we've had women that haven't been that kind of advocate. The ones that we know that never mind sending the ladder down, as I say, they've either broken the bottom rung, or they're busy pulling her up to trap your fingers. I've had a couple of those. No names, no pack drills. But sort of going back to that, wanting to help. So one of the questions that I ask in through the series of the podcast, which has been amazing to be able to do, is is network, information, money and self-belief are the 4 pillars that I talk about that women need, and not just particularly, it encompasses everybody, but I always, because I do a lot of work with women, obviously. So network, information, money and self-belief. So money is personal and business.
Yeah.
But out of those 4 things, which one resonates with you over your career?
I suppose network and self-belief. I think they're probably the 2 that would really highlight, because a network, as you say, you're only as good at your net worth is your network, isn't it? And actually, if you've not got a great network or the wrong people around you, then that can be really detrimental, just as having no network at all can be. But also, if you haven't got self-belief and you don't actually believe in your own journey, then you're the world's worst enemy. It's your own enemy, aren't you, on that side? So I think the self-belief is probably the paramount, alongside having a good network. And I've been lucky to have a really supportive family. I've got some great friends, and in the industry I've met some really, really cracking people. Yes, there's been some dogs along the way, should we say, but I've met some really, really trusted friends that have become really trusted friends, and I think that's really supported. It's not a one woman journey. It is it's about the family and that collective. And I think it's
because I think when you're doing that juggly thing, because people sort of say, when you say network, think of it in a business context or perspective, but it's not. I always think, because I've got 1 child, and well, he's 20 now, so for me, and it was a massive shock. But anyway, a massive shock after 25 years, nearly years. Wow. But that thing about having that network of people that, picking up from school, or, the number of times when I just wished that I had one of those buttons on the car, like in Men in Black, that put me on the roof of the tunnel to get me through the tunnel quicker, because I was going to be the mum that was going to be late at school. But that kind of networking, you can just ring somebody, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. Can you go and pick, Brody up or whatever?
Key, absolutely key. And I've had, my mum, my mother-in-law when she was alive, my father-in-law now, my husband has always been one of my biggest supporters. And, it's, I've got quite a big role in terms of what I do, and some husbands could would see that as a threat, or in terms of their status and things. But my husband, he's been so supportive, and he always said anything he can do to support me doing something, trips to London or where I'm going. He'll drop stuff to go and pick up Charlotte and deal with anything. And I think that's really important. And
it is nice to know you've got that cheerleader, because as you know,
it's very easy to put me in my place if when I've
so is mine.
He's not backwards and coming forwards.
So is mine. But
that's good.
It is. But sometimes what you find is it's the other way, that there is that jealousy. And so I know one of the things in the pillars is about money, because sometimes when I say those 4 things, money, and especially from a wealth management perspective, women haven't thought about pensions, and they haven't thought about investing and stuff like that. And I think sometimes what they think, it's not for them. So what kind of just general advice, I personally think it's key.
It's
because I was told ages ago, but
I think everyone from a young age should be taught the value of money and the importance of saving, the importance of, pension contributions, for example. Doesn't sound very interesting. I say to my nephews that 25, 22 and just turned 19, and they're all saying, what stock shall I buy? I'm like, no, this is not what you want to hear, but you need to be contributing to your pension more. You need to be building a savings pot before you think about, investing it in the latest Bitcoin. It's that understanding, and I suppose it's the information part of what you were saying. So money and information goes hand in hand. If you don't understand what your financial position is, that's a real problem. And I often see it when going to client meetings, less so now, because there is a wealth shift towards more females, but historically you go and the wife would say, oh well, I don't know anything about the investments, I don't deal with any of that. I'll always talk to those ladies, because actually they should understand it, and I shouldn't be talking gobbledygook where they haven't got a clue and I'm showing off all of my skills. I should be there to talk about investments and talk about financial advice in really, really simple terms, so anyone can understand it. Because if you don't have control over your own financial position, then, you know, you really are at a disadvantage to other people. And I think, you know, females, I'm very happy to talk openly, and I do. I was on the train the other day down to London, and there was a chap had spotted on my laptop, because we got these lovely stickers when we merged together with Rathbone, so I've stuck them on my laptop because I didn't know what else to do with them, so I thought I'll stick them on my laptop. I won't forget my laptop then. And he went, oh, investments. He said, oh, and then he started going on about explaining all about, you know, his situation on the train, and I ended up there was a lady across the other side chipped in. I ended up just
were you doing a wealth clinic?
Yeah, I did say none of this is formal advice. This is just general conversations.
This is us being along 300 miles an hour.
And I was getting off the train, and they were all like waving to me going by, and I thought to myself, you know, people do need to know, and it's sharing that information with you know, with each other, and not being frightened about it, because so many people are scared of money, and they're scared of understanding. I don't do pensions, I don't know about pensions. They're not difficult to understand if someone just sits and explains it in an easy way. So I think, you know, especially for, you know, a lot of your ladies that you work with and deal with, it is having that understanding of just, you know, making sure that where the money's coming from and how that can sustain them over the sort of medium to long term, particularly if, you know, if they've got their own businesses, or if they're trying to deal with, you know, multiple children and the like. So I think it's really important. Lost me trail of thought now. I don't know what you asked. I don't know what the original question was.
It was about money and women, because what I always say, money is freedom and money is power.
Yeah.
So for me, when, you know, a woman that I'm working with isn't thinking about her own future. Listen, everybody's future in your little bubble is important, but it's like they say on the airplanes, isn't it? You have to put your own mask on first, because if you haven't got that oxygen, you then can't tend to everybody else. And for me, it's one of those things that women go, oh, do you know what, I'll get round to that. Or they are told that they're no good with money. You can't do figures. I'll do the money, because you just spend it all. And then all of a sudden they just begin, oh yeah, do you know what then? They think, well, I've never been like that. But anyway, for me it's about, it is about control. I am a control freak.
I am as well, to be fair. Spreadsheets or the lot. I love a list.
It's got to have a list and a process of spreadsheets. But it's like, if you don't know what, because it is, as you're getting older, and I know sort of like, you know, there's young people that listen to this and stuff, and they go, oh no, I don't want to think about that. You know, and especially for women, if you're in control of the money for yourself, then you can make plans, you can so sort of being in control and be mistress of your own destiny. So for me, what you're doing and sort of like, you know, that involvement of Rathbones and being with us as headline sponsor, I think it really sends out a lovely message within the city, in the fact that, you know, you're listening and you're there. Because for me, you know, I think it's trusted advice as well.
I think that's really important, because, you know, there's a lot of advice out there, and not all of it will be correct, and it's finding that person that you believe you can trust completely, and, you know, open up, because, you know, I've got to be so nosy in terms of when, you know, dealing with any financial advice. You've got to know much about people's circumstances. They've got to actually buy into giving you that information, because it's really personal, and it's, you know, it's so important to have the right trusted person, and it's finding that one to do.
But also sort of like that, as you say, the deep relationship that you have to have with people. And then sort of like, you know, because basically you need to look at everything, don't you? It's that whole spectrum. And that bit for me, I am a massive advocate about women being, you know, I'm the eldest of 6, and we had nothing. We had no money whatsoever. Fabulous childhood. You know, mum and dad were brilliant, but we were poor. So when I left school, my thing was I wanted a job to earn money. And so that's the thing for me has always been, you know, we didn't have any, so, you know, money was a massive driver for me. But when you were talking about networking and stuff like that, there's not an awful lot. The feedback I get when businesses come to Watty is the fact that usually what the offering is, let's go to a golf day, let's go to a boxing football match, let's go to a boxing thing. So when businesses bring their clients to Watty, that's what they say. It's like a different
It
experience.
is a different experience, and I completely understand a lot of networking. When I've done a lot of ladies networking over the years. I don't play golf. I'm not very sporty. I don't like football. It's like literally, I'm like the opposite to what normal networking has been viewed at in the past. Because I mean, networking's shifted, as again with well-being and the healthy opportunities that people are having with running clubs and things. I don't do running clubs either. Maybe I should, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But I think it's being in that room. It gives people an opportunity to network with those people that perhaps they're not networking with because of the environment that they're hosting these events at, and it's looking at that broader picture as to who else who are you missing in terms of that connection with, whether that's businesses and other businesses that you meet there, because let's face it, it's a full room, isn't it?
It is.
You can't get another table in there.
No, you can't.
And
Magic knickers do not work. If you've got your Spanx on, you can't. The gap between the
you're
chair.
not getting in there.
No, and if you're at the far end of the room, you're not going for a wee.
Do I get a good table if I'm a headline sponsor?
Dear, you're at the front. You're at the front. But if you're at that far end, you're not going to make it to the toilet. I always say you have to make sure you need the loo like 20 minutes before you really do.
But that's it. So that room itself, is great from a business point of view to be able to see actually who's got the same values as you, because if they're in that room, that generally speaking they've been getting tables for multiple years and they've got the same values. And if I want to recommend a client to a solicitor, or I want to recommend a client to an accountant, then I want to know who I'm recommending has got similar values to what we've got at Rathbones. And I think these type of opportunities from a networking point of view help highlight what businesses have values, and it's actually interesting to see what businesses aren't in the room. Yeah. And that's always interesting for me to see if what businesses haven't actually. I don't know where they've been, if they don't know anything about Watty, because they must have had their eyes shut. But if the businesses aren't connected or haven't got tables or aren't present there, that tells me something.
I think also it's to do with the range of women.
Yeah.
I mean, nominations are open at the moment. And probably by the time this goes out, they'll be closed. But every year it startles me from the range of women we get from every single sector and slice of life that sometimes wouldn't even be given the opportunity. No. And it absolutely blows me away when you see how the fabric of our city is formed by the women that are part of Watty. It really does. And especially over the last 15 years, 16 years now.
It's a fantastic city though, isn't it? And
it is.
I think lots of cities will have so many fabulous ladies as well. But I think there's something special in the Merseyside area. I feel like there's that little gem, isn't it?
Oh, and it's the women that are always the ones that get, oh no, I don't want to do it because, oh no, not me. And that's the bit then, I love that challenge, because it's like, no, actually, do you know what? You've been nominated. Somebody's thought about you. Yeah. They've put the bum on a chair. They've written about you, and there's absolutely no way you are escaping. So we sort of, in a nice roundabout way, talk them round. But those women that we do find and that become part of it, I know you've been a big part of sort of like, helping progress the women that have been category winners and stuff. But if you had to go back and give your younger self a crispy ear, because obviously it's called a crispy ear podcast, what would that crispy ear be about? Because you've paid forward that mentorship. So
I think it's a really good question, and I think it'd be great to go back and have a conversation with my younger self. I think the key thing would be always believe in yourself. You are so much better than you think you are, and don't let challenging environments hold you back. You're going to face loads of different challenges over the course of your lifetime, let alone in a career environment, but it's what you do with those challenges and the outcomes that really drive success. And I'm really grateful to the fact that I have probably broken a few glass ceilings over the years, and just have that self-belief, because I think that's one of the key thing, as we said earlier, is having that belief in yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then why would anybody else believe in you?
I think it's so easy, especially in your environment in the financial sector, because it is quite male dominated, to listen to the voices.
Yeah.
Because you've got nobody to sort of like bounce them off. Well, you have now, but nobody to bounce them off as a younger self.
I think my former head of the office before he moved on, he said to me, when we were in the boardroom, I was the only sort of female in there, he said, you need to make your mark. He said, if people talk over you, you just need to carry on and make them stop. You shouldn't keep stopping for other people to talk over you. So now I do hold my own in there. Some people probably say too much, but I do. And that advice was just really, really important to me. So maybe it'd be that.
Yeah, but isn't that interesting that came from a man?
It did come from a man, and he said to me, "You're going to feel uncomfortable doing it." He said, "Because it's not in your nature." He said, "But," he said, "you need to stand your ground, and you need to hold your own in these. Otherwise, you won't be able to get a seat at the table. And you know, you've got to have that seat at the table. But to do it, you need to be brave."
But also the fact that he saw in you, the necessary skills and tenacity that's needed. And I do love it, because I've, you know, again, I'm always full of sayings, aren't I? But I always say it can't all be pink and it can't all be blue. It needs to be that bruisey colour in the middle, because as you've already said about your husband, and sort of like, you know, your boss, you know, that was, for me, sometimes if you've got that male support, it does sort of like go, oh, okay. But it's also good to have that female support.
Definitely.
Because you know, juggling kids and all the other stuff, and family and mums and all that, well, elderly mums and stuff, like when you get to my age. But, you know, it is nice to have those females that you can sort of like, you know, bounce that kind of stuff off.
It is.
Right, Marion, I can't thank you enough for being a little champion and being there for us for Rathbones, and I do genuinely with all my heart thank you so much. And it's amazing to have such a wonderful brand as Rathbones as a support, because I think, you know, we're 15 years down the line now, and to have that kind of gravitas for somebody to think, actually, do you know what, we want to be associated with that, I can't thank you enough.
It was an absolute pleasure, and I'm delighted to be supportive of the whole movement, because it is, as I say, absolutely fantastic what you've done and what you've achieved. And it's, you know, I think people don't realise the effort and the work that is behind the scenes, and it's all driven really by you. I know there's teams that support, but you are the driving force, and we're so lucky to have you to drive that. Honestly, you're amazing, and I know you were the first Woman of the Year back in 2003, but you're still the Woman of the Year every year, I think.
Oh no, it needs to go to other people.
It does, but you're always that constant.
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate that, because it is a labour of love.
It is, but
when you see, you know, and also when you get the support in the city from, you know, headline sponsors, but also our other sponsors as well, and most of them are still with us and they won't leave. No. And I think that's also a really lovely thing, is the fact that they don't just come for 1 year and then leave. So, but honestly, Marion, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for everything. And let's hopefully make a big, you know, a success of everything. And
looking forward to it.
It'll be fabulous in June. Thank you so much for your time, Marion. Thank you. Thank you. This has been Ellie Kerr, closing off on the Crispy Ear podcast. Thank you for listening.